And we're back. The hashtag to use online is NewsGang. And now we want to talk about the BBI, which is now making its way up the mountain to Meru for the first time. It's going into the president's backyard, so to speak. And for all of those that might have reservations about it and think it's a waste of time, listen to Meru Governor Kiraitu Murungi on what you should do or where you should take your feelings.
To deliver one of the biggest rallies of BBI rallies in the scene in the country so far. So we don't want people to bring in their side shows to our meeting. We have warned those who are saying BBI is a waste of time. So if it's a waste of time, don't come to waste time in Kinoru. If you think BBI is a waste of time, please stay at home, keep away, and don't come to Kinoru Stadium.
If you don't have anything to do, don't do it here. I think those are some of the things that we used to hear about. How significant is this going to Meru, Joe?
I think it's hugely significant. For the president. I mean, remember, this thing has been going around the country. He is one of the architects of the BBI. One of those two hands that were shaken near Harambee House was his. And therefore, it was very important for him to stage a big event. And I think they're going to try and do that. I mean, Kiraitu Murungi just said we are going to have the biggest BBI rallies ever seen. So there's a sense in which numbers are actually important in this thing. But I think more symbolically, it says that the president and his backyard are in this thing called BBI. Remember, there's been a conversation in the country where the DP and his supporters, for example, well, they say we support this thing, but they have problems with certain aspects of it. So where they stand really on this matter has been a subject of debate. So this is a point where I think that the president is hoping that his backyard can make an important statement. Remember that before this, there have been all these meetings going on in Nyandarua, in Nyeri, in Tarakaniti, in Embu, all of these places, and then tomorrow,
Nairobi, right?
Tomorrow is at Kenya Methodist University.
Tomorrow they'll have one at Kenya Methodist University, where now they probably will bring all of these things together, and then now they have something to present, even though we have already seen bits and pieces of what they'll be presenting. But yes, to back to your question, this is hugely important for the president, but there are also indications that we are moving very close to the end of these rallies, because I think now we're just left with the Rift and then Nairobi, and then we'll be done. So this is really the final leg. And
to in fact underscore how important this is, we saw again a conglomeration of some serious heavyweights, both in politics and in the economy. The Mt Kenya Foundation meeting at Safari Park Hotel. For those that might want to remember history, we saw this very same meeting at a fundraiser just before the election, where 1 billion was raised in what was it, an hour?
Over dinner.
Yeah, over dinner, right? And then now we see them
1
again.
1 million bob per plate.
Yes. Talk to us about the significance of that Mt Kenya Foundation meeting.
I think this marks a turning point for BBI in central Kenya, because it has been a journey of doubt. Remember, it has not come easy for President Uhuru Kenyatta reaching this moment. Remember, there was hostility, there was a campaign by members of parliament particularly that he has not done enough for the region. And for a long time, in the last 2 years, the president was approaching his own region so cautiously. His own deputy was creating his own base through the back route, basically by accessing his backyard without going through State House. And then this week we see the gathering at Safari Park Hotel. Now, it reminded me of the 2010 Constitution referendum, because Central Kenya was still very doubtful to the very last minute. It took a meeting at Limuru Conference Center, where it was actually officiated by church leaders, but a majority of the people that gathered are the decision makers in business, decision makers in politics, and they hold this meeting, and it marked the turning point. And they said, okay, we now clear the 2010 draft constitution for passage by the community. Because what Central Kenya has done traditionally and continuously is look at such documents, look at these proposals and say, what is the need for the region? And they go through it carefully. Now, they don't all go through it carefully. You saw in Nyeri yesterday that the crowd was asking for copies of the
report
of the report, because these copies are not available for ordinary folks, and even if they were, it's not them who will give the interpretation of what is right or what is wrong. It is the gatherings such as was seen at Safari Park Hotel that gives the translation, that tells the community, that tells the region, this is okay, let's go with it. And I think this is a turning point for BBI. You saw the mood of the governors, you saw the mood of Kiraitu Murungi, the host. It's going to be a massive gathering, a show of force, a show of might, and I think a show of support for President Kenyatta.
And unfortunately, in this country, people don't just become president, they are made presidents. And right there, you saw a group of people that is capable of determining a few things about the country's political future.
Exactly,
But what is important to note is that the very day the Mt Kenya Foundation sponsored meeting was happening at Safari Park, another meeting was happening at Pan-Afric, largely attended by members of parliament who are allied to the deputy president. In fact, they were referring to the Safari Park meeting as a convention of political brokers. And it is instructive to note that they were saying some of the things they were talking about were as a result of the meeting in Narok. They were saying if the people at Safari Park cannot talk about what was happening at Narok, then there's a problem. In fact, some Rigathi Gachagua saying it's fake. But when you listen to Kiraitu Murungi, the statement was not for anyone else. It was basically directed at the members of parliament from the Mt Kenya region who are meeting at Pan-Afric. That statement was theirs. It was meant for them. And don't be surprised if there's some element of, sidelining them to some great extent. And it will be done probably in a very methodical manner in terms of who speaks representing who. It's something to be very carefully noted on tomorrow and on Saturday. The speakers will be carefully selected. I had a glimpse of the program, and you'll see representation from the business community, from the youth, from women leaders. The speakers will be very carefully selected because it must stick to a certain script. And some of the recommendations that have been made, I have a copy of some of the recommendations that have been made there. And I had Linus talk about...
A true copy?
Yes, a true copy.
Right, okay.
The meetings that have been going on, I don't think there is any other region that has conducted more meetings prior to the mobilization meeting than...
There was even one in Nairobi, right?
There was one meeting in Nairobi by supposedly residents of Mount Kenya who reside in Nairobi. And they were talking about the management of Nairobi and that running theme on proportional representation and an amendment to the revenue allocation formula. They're talking about proportional representation, one man, one vote, 1 shilling. That will be a very predominant theme in Meru. But even more interestingly is what I had Governor Francis Kimemia, the chairman of the Central Kenya Economic Bloc, say in terms of who is the boss in Mount Kenya region. And I hope Roba has that bite.
Francis Kimemia.
I want to assure you that the region is united. You may see semblances of divisions, but I want to assure you that the community is behind President Uhuru Kenyatta, and we speak with one voice, and we have the backing of our people, as you have seen in the past, anytime he has visited the region. So there's no doubt who is the leader, the de facto leader of the Kikuyu, Embu, Meru community in the 10 counties that we have.
And it may seem that they would want to,
as opposed to who. He's saying it is President Uhuru Kenyatta who is the leader of the region, as if that is contested.
Because there were questions as to the inroads that the deputy president has been making in the Mount Kenya region. And this is amplified by the number of MPs who are attending that Pan-Afric meeting. So basically what Governor Kimemia was saying is that in Meru, we will confirm who is boss. That tells you a few things, because every so often you've had this narrative that ground ni different Vula Mount Kenya region.
Yeah.
So there's that attempt by the president to, through his team, to show still boss. And the BBI meetings, by way of analogy, you see, there are some insects that you may see around. If you don't want to hit them with a hammer or something else, you introduce insects that eat the insects that are there. Biological control. So ultimately, you will end up with a result that you will have achieved previously had used a bit of force. So the BBI narrative works in some way for the president. But now the question is, how will the public, the residents, receive this process?
Yeah, and you remember a lot of that happened before. Remember with the president's speech to the nation, where he addressed a lot of the issues that the leaders in central Kenya had raised regarding agriculture, potato farming, I mean, you know, coffee and all of these sectors. And remember that was done, you know, very well prior to all of that, the cold storage, you know, that sort of thing, the milk sector, to prepare them for just this moment where he finally stamps
to deal with the hostility
that he would have faced. Yes,
I was told by I asked somebody about you know, I was curious about all these things that are going on, because I mean the situation in central Kenya is completely confusing. I mean, given how the region has voted before. So I asked, so what is going on? And this old politician told me, you know, what we are doing right now as a country with all the noises from different places is that we have taken a donkey and we are painting it the colors of a zebra, and then when the rains come we'll get back the donkey. So at the moment the rains may be starting.
Indeed. That's
but this, you owe us something, Yvonne.
No, let's save that analogy for next week, when I can have ample time to explain it and flesh it out. It's not for an explainer, but it's for here. No, that analogy has been a long time coming. I have surrendered it for today. We want to start off with our final words, but and Francis Gachuri will be talking about this in just a moment, I believe, on his punchline. But South Africa has made a very big, bold step. They are going into Wuhan, China, to repatriate South African citizens from Wuhan City in Hubei province. 199 of them, as per the latest consolidated list. This is what we're hearing from the government. That is what governments do. Cyril Ramaphosa.
That is what governments do.
And not just governments, serious governments.
Yep. And meanwhile, the 100, is it 100 or 200 in Kenyans remain in Wuhan. As our government has said, Wuhan is on lockdown, obviously not for South Africa. It's time for our final words, people. And today,